The following episode may contain explicit language and spoilers. Listener discretion is advised.
So this is What's Your Fandom? This is a podcast where myself and my good friend Stuart are going to be journeying through the fandoms of film, TV, games, books, and comics, flying our geek flags with pride and talking our way through the multiverses. All of them. Every single one. My name is Mike. Say hello, Stu.
Hello, Stu.
I knew you were going to do that. That wasn't discussed, but I knew you were going to do that. And in this kind of short introductory episode, I just wanted our listeners, hopefully pray we have listeners, to just sort of get a feel for who we are and for us to talk about what the podcast is going to be. So, Stu, I guess my first question to you is, why on earth have we started this podcast?
That is an excellent question.
Cue silence. Tumbleweed.
Yes. Do you know what I think it is? I think it's because of the sort of the world we're living in now, with stuff like social media. I think now we're part of, I don't say a generation, but we're in like a world now where people discuss fandom a lot, particularly online. Whenever there's a new TV series or film out, now you can just go to Facebook or YouTube or Instagram and people are discussing the newest show or the newest film that's come out. So I think for me, like, this is nice to have that platform because I don't often, in my social circle, don't have that many people who are as into the stuff I'm into. So this is very much like a sort of an outlet, and hopefully to reach other people who may be in a similar situation to me, in terms of that sort of social circle where they're like, oh, I want to really talk about this, but I'm not really friends with people who are into Marvel, for example. So it's a kind of an outlet. That's how I think about it.
Absolutely. It's like a shared experience, isn't it? When you find something that you're passionate about and you want to kind of share that with people and have a discussion. And as you said, sometimes, fandoms by nature are sort of, they're quite specific. So if you're into one thing, you might not necessarily be into other things. But I think when you and I kind of met and started talking, it became very apparent that one particular fandom wasn't going to cover it. We're going to span all of them.
Yes.
and then, but then that was quite a kind of, I guess it's greedy in a way, because I listen to a lot of podcasts that are singularly about this. So I go and listen to that Doctor Who podcast or that Star Wars podcast, but I don't listen to one that sort of has its finger in all of those different fandoms.
Yeah.
So I thought it was quite cool for us to not limit ourselves to just one particular fandom, and it could just be so broad that we can have so much to talk about.
Yes.
So what is our podcast about then, Stu?
Obviously, we're discussing the films that we enjoy and the TV shows. We haven't delved into comic books yet, and I know that is going to be an absolute rabbit hole only because comic books as a medium in itself, it can be quite hard to get into.
It's knowing where to start, I think.
Yes.
As somebody here who has their hand up who doesn't know where to start.
Yeah, I think, see, obviously I've been into comic books now for like the last decade or so. So for me, I've got a different kind of take on it. But I often see now with like the Marvel comics, they're rebooting their series every year. So you're constantly seeing issue number 1 of, say, Spider-Man, for example, again and again, like every year. And I kind of think, oh, that's frustrating from from a collective point of view. But then at the same time, like, well, no, I suppose if there are people who want to read comic books, you start with issue 1. So it's a good way to get new people into comic books.
That's genuinely very interesting. I didn't know they did that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that must be like the reason they do it, I think, because I personally get a little bit frustrated because you could be reading a story that could take you, because if it's a weekly issue and there's 30 issues, that's 30 weeks investing your time in a story. And then when they reboot it, it's almost like they're going, oh, that story doesn't matter now because we're starting again. Which is a bit of a narrow-minded way to look at it, because really, when you're on the journey, that's what you should enjoy, isn't it?
It's all about the journey, Stu. All about the journey.
So, I mean, yeah, comic books can be a little bit complicated as well, I think, because they often retell characters' origins, and there's variations of characters, and there's there's multiverses, there's alternate timelines, there's everything.
I mean, in terms of story, there's no budget, is there?
No.
So they can do what they want.
Yes.
Which has got to be seen as an exciting thing. It's just that, like, for me, as not a complete comic novice, but very much an amateur comic reader, I will need guidance in that area. But this is quite cool, because this podcast will give me a reason to, say you think this one particular one's really good, then I can read it, you can reread it or something, and we can talk about it, and that will be a really interesting chat.
Yeah. I think as well now, like I personally, when it comes to reading and collecting comic books, I go more for graphic novels now over like the single issues, because single issues take up a lot of room,
of course,
and obviously it takes time to complete the collection. So sometimes it's worth waiting out until a graphic novel is made and you've got the whole collection in one book.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I get that. Completely get that. Okay, so what can our dear listeners expect from our first season of the podcast?
Uncomfortable silences.
Absolutely. Technical difficulties.
I was thinking of bringing some cringe humor to the table.
Could you please?
Is that all right?
It's absolutely fine by me. I feel like if you can make me shudder because of the cringy levels of what you're going to say, that's the correct level of cringe you need to aim for.
Yes, completely.
Yeah, I think there's going to be voices, different voices coming from you mainly. I mean, like multiple voices from your mouth.
Yeah. But just to clarify, so that people are aware, it's not that I'm good at impressions. It's nothing to do with that. It's just, I don't know. I don't say it's like a nervous tick, but sometimes it just happens.
I just love it because, when we're together, you can just sometimes start narrating your own life in a different voice. And I'm like, you're stood right there living it, whilst the narrator you was telling me what's happening. That's brilliant.
Narrator Stu comes out.
We need to give him a better name than Narrator Stu, though.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling that.
No, it doesn't. It's too on the nose, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it needs to be a bit more subtle.
Yes. I'll have to, yeah. I'll ask him.
You ask him, find out.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel like angry Stu comes out sometimes.
Ooh.
Well, what I think is angry Stu, anyway. I mean, for me, like, the feelings of anger, but the way they're expressed is not through sort of rage. It's more just more of a rant with a bit of a voice break.
Oh, okay. So the voice break is the signifier.
Yeah, the voice break comes particularly when I'm trying to like assert a point. Then I kind of, why is he doing that? It's one of them kind of little moments.
I'm with you. With you.
It's where all my emotions just sort of peak and my voice can't take it.
I love it. You literally break.
Very
Literally break.
much so. Very much so.
And anything else that our dear listeners can look forward to in the coming weeks?
Well, we're going to be discussing some big fandoms, most definitely, through particularly on film. We're going to Oh, shall we reveal specific fandom what we're going to be chatting about?
You can name a couple. Why not?
Why not? Okay. Well, there's going to be Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Back to the Future.
That's enough. Stop. You're teasing them now. That's enough.
Too much, isn't it?
No, that was just enough. I like that. 3 is a good number.
That was good.
Yeah. No. Yeah, we are taking on some pretty big franchises, actually, aren't we, to have a chat about?
Yes. Yes.
I think it's a really interesting starting point as well. We're sort of having kind of those big general conversations that kind of, come from really interesting angles. Obviously, we're sat here having already recorded some. There's a little insight, guys. We have actually recorded some episodes already because we want to try and be ahead of the game. And it's quite nice that we get to do that in this first season, being quite a general conversational season, and then perhaps in season 2 we'll delve deeper into specifics and really strange questions and queries and comments from fandom. And I think all the fandoms, and it could be quite interesting.
Yeah, I think additional to that, something that I think people could look forward to. I know you've looked forward to it. Movie quotes.
Oh, highlight of the podcast for me is that we 100% know we end each podcast on a movie quote. Well, not necessarily just movie, just like a general. It tends to be movie, but Stuart gives us a movie quote, and we will be releasing what the quote is from on our Instagram later on in the week once the episode has been out. So I love it because I don't know what's coming, and the delivery is my favorite thing in the world. It's just no, we'll leave that. We'll let them have a surprise when they get to the delivery of each quote. That's fun. That's in every episode, yeah. And we're going to be doing some like watch-alongs and perhaps some audio commentaries to things. We're going to be doing possibly some live episodes.
That is going to be so fun. The thought of a live episode.
You say fun, I hear dread.
Bye-bye, safety net.
Yeah. My MacBook is my safety net where I can edit all the silences and the coughs and things out. So if we don't have that, look out.
Yes.
No, it's going to be cool. I'm seeing good things, and it's actually, do you know what? It's a really nice, hour a week that I get to sit and have a chat to you about really geeky stuff and it's kind of just like really good for me as well, just to enjoy that hour out of everything else in life.
Yes.
Which is cool.
Yeah, I think it does give that element of escapism.
Yeah. And hopefully it won't be, fall on deaf ears. Hopefully we'll have people who will want to listen to us carry on talking. And yeah. Well, the thing is that we've got social media. We've got an Instagram and a TikTok, and the username is Fandom Pod. So please all go and follow that if you get a chance. And the conversation can continue there. So that's quite cool.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a big question to ask you.
Oh.
What's your fandom, Stu?
I can only have one.
Just for the purpose of this particular episode, yeah, pick one.
Right.
Pick one.
Batman.
Good fandom.
Yeah.
Good fandom. Why is Batman your fandom?
I think it's because obviously I'm a comic book reader and stuff. I think Batman has been an interesting character to me. And obviously we've had a lot of depictions in film and in TV series and in video game. Yeah, there's just something about him as a character that I like. I like his universe. He has an amazing rogues gallery. And with comic books especially, there's been some really, really well-written Batman stories that just draw me in. And it's compelled me to add to my collection of graphic novels.
Oh, that's cool. Did you grow up then, like, watching or reading Batman stuff?
Not really, no. I mean, the Michael Keaton film came out the year I was born. So growing up, I was too scared to watch it because of the Joker. And it was too dark for me as a child. I enjoyed Batman Forever growing up, and I enjoyed Batman and Robin because I would have been about, 8 or 9 when those films came out.
Yeah.
And it just sort of developed after that. I mean, I didn't get into comic books until I was in my 20s. And then I started to read more of Batman and realizing, like, wow, this is a really interesting character. And then you put that alongside what they do with the films. And again, that starts an interesting conversation as well about how the character is depicted in film and how he appears in the comic books.
That is actually really interesting because a lot of, I know that obviously Marvel is huge and there's a lot of general discussions with people from what things are like in in the comic book versus the films and the changes that are made, and it's often a point of discussion. I mean, it's the same for me because I'm not a big comic reader. It's more like what the movie adaptation of the book is like, because I've read a lot of books that have been adapted into films and TV shows. So I think it's the same kind of conversation. It's always quite interesting to see where they've changed things, what they've changed, and why, and whether you're okay with that or not.
Yeah.
I mean, Batman is so rich. I do get it. I do get it.
Yeah, I think, like I say, they actually, a lot of people would argue that he does have like the best set of villains in his universe. You know, because they're also like over the top, and you know, you got like the Joker, you got the Penguin, you got the Riddler, you got Mr. Freeze, you've got Ra's al Ghul, Clayface, Scarecrow, Bane. I reeled off way too many. Like,
I was like, are you still going?
Does he come up for air?
No, but you're right. Think, they're iconic.
Yes. And I think as well, what I find interesting about the Batman villains, I don't know if anyone else will agree with this, but I find that like they're always like a threat to the city, but they're never like a threat to Batman himself. Not very often, anyway. I feel like some of them try to, you know, they do stuff that questions his like morality, and because he's got his whole no killing rule and stuff. And obviously Bane had a really iconic story with Batman. But for the most part, I just kind of feel like they're just a pain in the ass for him. I mean, there's a guy running around Gotham City robbing banks, and he's obsessed with question marks. And Batman's got to take that guy down.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, that's quite interesting from a point of view of when those characters were created. It was a certain time, and they were in comic book form, and how that what's the most probably interesting thing about Batman is his endurance, the character and the story's endurance. We're still watching new Batman films. I'll cut that cough.
Keep it.
Yeah. So, you know, clearly that franchise and this fandom is not going anywhere, and I am drawn to it too, and I completely get that. So yeah, I mean, I'll answer the same question as briefly as I possibly can. Because if I was to choose a fandom that was mine, it would be Doctor Who, and I got into Doctor Who when the revival happened in 2005. So it had been off the air for about 15 years, I think. And I didn't watch any Doctor Who, classic Doctor Who. It was just 2005 where I started. And since then, I have watched, rewatched, read, reread, just absorbed as much as I can of the Doctor Who worlds. Recently I've started watching classic Who as well, and it's taken me quite a while to get to that because I think I was just so enamored with the new Who that I didn't feel the need. But they started releasing the classic Who's on Blu-ray or remastered new special effects and things. I just thought that would be really interesting, along with a lot of special features which included like modern writers and actors and from the show as well, from the classic show, you know, talking about it and dissecting it again, and I just thought that would be a really interesting way to learn about the show. So I recently started doing that, which is really fun. I'm never really far away from something from the Whoniverse. I'm just not. There's always something going on in my life, Doctor Who, and it's a comforting thing for me, but it's also something that gets me really excited. So yeah, Doctor Who is my bag.
Do you think? I mean, because you obviously that's a lot of content there for Doctor Who, right? So I mean,
there's so much similar to Batman. It's been around a long time.
I just wondered that, like, do you obviously, as much as you enjoy Doctor Who, do you ever like burn yourself out sometimes?
Yeah, I think sometimes you need a break, right? Yeah. I think you get. I mean, but what's really kind of clever about Doctor Who is that it's been going on for so long, and each era is so different. I mean, the cast is different, the creators are different, the writers, the producers, everything is so different that you can pick an era to watch that is completely different to the last era. And so it does feel like you're watching something else, but still with that familiarity of the TARDIS and the the Daleks and things. You've still got those big things that move with it, but each era is just so vastly different, and it's always entertaining. But yeah, you're completely right. You need a change, otherwise life would be boring. Which is why I'm not doing a Doctor Who podcast. Is why I'm doing a fandom podcast, so I can talk about all the different things I enjoy.
Yeah, this is what I was thinking now, because I am a big Batman fan, and like I say, I can't even tell you how many comic books and stuff that I've got, and the amount of times I've played the games and all that. But I think that if I was to invest in a podcast on just Batman, I think, yeah, I do honestly think I would get burned out by the end of it, and I would hate that, because then I think I worry I'd be put off getting back into Batman.
It's one of those funny things where I think that when your passion becomes a task or a job, it can sometimes suck the fun out of the passion.
Yes.
And so, yeah, you're completely right. So I think it's going to be really nice to touch on all these things as we go through, and see where it takes us, really.
Yes.
Okay, so Stu, I have one last thing I want to do with you that I haven't told you about. So
All
this
right.
is you being filled with dread and panic. Okay,
Yes.
so basically there's a website called dorkygeekynerdy.com, and I have found a Batman trivia quiz. Now,
What?
I knew that you were going to choose Batman as your fandom. Call it intuition. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but there are 3 rounds here. And
Okay.
there's the dorky round, the geeky round, and the nerdy round. And they
Oh.
get progressively more difficult as you go through. There's 10 questions of each round. Don't worry, I'm not going to do all 10. I thought I'm just going to pick 2 random questions from each round and actually see how you get on.
I'm going to be exposed as a fraud here now.
Completely. I wanted to panic you and expose you. This is my role.
Brilliant.
Okay, so we're going to start with the dorky round.
Okay.
You can pick a number between 1 and 10 if you want, and you can choose which question to have first.
I'll go for 4, please.
Okay, so after graduating from being Robin, Dick Grayson became what superhero?
Nightwing.
Even I knew that.
Yes.
Even I knew that. Well done. I'll choose the second question. Okay. Let's just have a really, really relatively easy one. What is Alfred's last name?
Pennyworth.
Oh, you're 2 for 2. Well done. Let's move on to the geeky round. Okay. I'm just going to peruse the questions a second. Oh, interesting. Okay. What 1954 book alleged that Batman and Robin were portrayed as lovers?
Oh. Yeah, I remember this. I don't remember the name of the book, though. No.
Okay, to be fair, that's really, really obscure. It's called Seduction of the Innocent.
Oh,
And
gosh.
I know, rough, right? Apparently, the public outcry from the book led to the creation of the Comics Code Authority.
Yes.
Ooh, interesting.
Yes.
According to Bob Kane, Batman's gliding cape was inspired by designs from what Renaissance inventor?
That'd be Leonardo da Vinci.
Well done. Okay, so only 1 wrong so far. Okay, we're going to move on now to the ultra difficult nerdy round. Okay,
Oh my God.
now then, let's just have a little look and see if there's any interesting questions. Okay, I've got 2 questions for you.
Okay.
In 1983, Batman quit the Justice League and founded what group?
The Outsiders.
Well done. Oh my God, you're a proper fan. Okay, and I got the last question. Okay, interesting. I do not know this. In the original comic, what movie were the Waynes seeing the night they are murdered?
The Mark of Zorro.
Oh my God, you're so good. This is ridiculous. Okay, you got all but one correct. Fair play. I think we can officially call you an actual fan.
Yay.
I mean, well, there's actual fan and then there's you. Fair play to you. I'm quite impressed.
Thank you. Do you know, I'm actually genuinely drinking my cup of tea out of my Batman mug right now.
I've got a Doctor Who mug on the go.
Yes! We're fans.
We're actually officially fans. Okay,
Wow.
well, I'm going to wrap this episode up now. So thank you guys for listening to this introductory episode to What's Your Fandom. As I said earlier, there is a Instagram and a TikTok account. Just look for Fandom Pod. We will be there and we will be putting content up, well, as much as we can, because we're going to try, aren't we, Stu?
Absolutely.
Thank you for answering those questions with me.
That's no problem.
And say goodbye, Stu.
Goodbye.
Oh, you didn't say goodbye, Stu.
I thought about it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Let's take it again.
Okay.
Say goodbye, Stu.
Goodbye, Stu.